Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast, where we talk with the people behind the current events and breakthroughs in brain implants in an understandable way, helping bring together various fields involved in neuroprosthetics. Here is your host, Laden Yurachek.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Neural Implant Podcast. Today's guest is Jon Speer, and he's the founder and VP of Greenlight Guru. And what this is a quality management software service, especially for medical device companies. And a lot of people may be in academia, but I think this could be useful for everybody, not just medical device companies looking to get FDA approval. So, Jon, I introduced you a little bit, but what is quality management and why is it important? And does it have to be boring?
Some people would say, yes, it absolutely has to be boring. However, I disagree. If it is boring, then you're going to lose your audience. But essentially what a quality management system, the way I think of it is it's important. Medical device companies are regulated by the FDA. And these regulatory bodies like FDA, they define certain requirements or expectations or regulations that medical device companies need to follow to products that they're designing and developing are safe and effective. And when you read or digest these regulations, you have to interpret them into your company practices. And the way you do that is through defining policies and procedures. So think of a quality management system is really a set of policies, procedures, work instructions, and so on and so forth that describe how you do business, keeping in consideration the regulations of which the markets and where you're selling your products.
So this is applicable to more than just medical device companies looking to get FDA funding. It's basically making standard operating procedures, SOPs, tutorials, guidebooks on everything. But again, this is kind of a boring thing. This is not something when you think about entrepreneurship and move fast and break things. That's not, hey, let's make an SOP. So how do you make those two parts of the things fit? Because it sounds like Greenlight Guru, it's actually fun. It's not too bad.
I've been in med device since the late 90s, so my entire career. I've done a lot of things in this space, from being product development engineer, where you get to design things and build prototypes and break things and all that sort of thing, which is, still probably looking back, one of the more fascinating things I've gotten to do in my career. But as I got more and more experience and worked with, a variety of different companies, ranging from very large to down to startups, I observed a common challenge or issue that every one of these companies was facing. And a lot of them, what they were facing is the systems in which they had in place to help manage their business, their quality management system, was done in such a way that actually took really smart people away from using their intelligence and instead became paper jockeys, so to speak, filling out forms and checklists and all these sorts of things. And there was a point specifically when I was doing some consulting, and I have an engineering background. I've got all these years of experience. I've brought all these products to market. And I was spending the majority of my time just like updating a spreadsheet. And I'm like, surely all of this time, experience, my education, and so on and so forth is more valuable than me just filling out a spreadsheet. So that's when a light bulb started to go off. Like, what if we built an intentional, purposeful solutions and workflows that were designed for the medical device professional, so that we could give that medical device professional more time to focus on product rather than filling out forms. That's really the gist of Greenlight, how it got started.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in those spreadsheets setting up hyperlinks, almost sending whatever thing you're looking for. Oh, you really want to find this, or it's stored over here. And right. So it's like automating that hyperlinking process. And that's why God invented computers, was so we don't have to work and to automate everything, right? Computers are much better at locating and things than humans are. So how does it work? And why is it important? And why couldn't people just make their own system?
Sure. So Greenlight is I guess, get a little bit jargony here for a moment. It is a multi-tenant based cloud platform. And essentially, it doesn't matter where in the world you are, your company, if you are a Greenlight customer, you have an account provision for you that is managed by us and our cloud service providers. But all of the information that you store, manage, and maintain within your environment is proprietary, secure, safe, firewalled, all these sorts of things, encrypted. And the only people who have access to your information are the users that you allow to have access to that. And so once you set up your environment, once you invite users from your company to be within your environment, there are various workflows that are within the platform. And depending on your role within your company, will dictate or determine which of those workflows are the most applicable for you. So for example, a product development engineer, one of the things that we do in the medical device industry is you have to document your design and development activities to ensure that product is as safe and effective as it could possibly be. You have to design your product against certain requirements, and you have to demonstrate with objective evidence or documentation that product is safe and that it is effective, which I think all of us as potential healthcare consumers appreciate. We want that product to work, and we want it to be safe, and we want it to be reliable. And really, this is the essence of design and development and design control activity. So there's workflows for that. There is a kind of cliche and something that you'll hear often in the med device space, and certainly in other industries as well, is if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. Well, within the Greenlight platform, there's a workflow for document management where you can maintain all your versions of different document as things change over time. You can maintain every single version, all the history, but you can also manage the electronic signatures for review and approval of this information. And then once you launch a product into the marketplace, the expectation is that you're monitoring the use of that product at point of use. You're getting feedback. Sometimes that feedback indicates, oh, wow, maybe I need to do some sort of investigation, or maybe I need to change something. And so Greenlight can help you manage all of those quality events that happen post-launch too.
So is the process any different for neurotech or neural implants, or is this pretty applicable to all medical device companies?
It's applicable to all med device companies. The term medical device it's very generic. It ranges from a neural implant device to a tongue depressor to a hospital bed, and I could go on and on. But the regulations, the expectations, if you will, of a medical device company, as far as what you need to do and how you need to architect your internal policies, procedures, SOPs, things of that nature. Generally speaking, all medical device companies are going to be following those same sets of rules and regulations. Now, there are nuances and differences. Specifically, when you get into products, a neural implant, I would expect that to be much more sophisticated from a design and development standpoint and the documentation that I have to support that, versus if I were developing a tongue depressor, for example. That's going to be much less detailed, much less lower risk, much simpler product in general. So that's where you get the variation, is depending on how complex and risky the product might be.
Okay. Yeah. And so this software arises from the fact that you won't be able to go to market with your medical device company unless you have this, and the FDA has to look through it. But is this something that is applicable, that could be applicable to something outside of medical device companies looking to come on, like people in government or academia or anybody else?
I mean, as you said earlier, the notion of a quality management system and defining policies and procedures, that is not especially unique to med device. It is important to medical device because there is government agencies and regulatory bodies throughout the world who have this expectation. But there are other industries that have that same expectation. But regulated by a government entity, I think a quality management system is just a good way to manage your business, especially if you want your business to scale and grow. If we had a company together and we defined a certain practice for making a podcast, for example, if it's you and I communicating, that's great. Well, what happens when we add a third person and maybe a fourth person? Now we have to rely on tribal knowledge and make sure that all these people that we're bringing into the fold understand the process. What if we had that process documented in an SOP? That's not foolproof either, but it is a better step, right? So now we can make sure that all people understand, here's your SOP, and we can support that with training activities and a number of other ways to make sure that there's an understanding and retention of that. And then we can continue monitor that process over time, identify, well, maybe there's an opportunity for improvement here, or maybe we need to make a change because now we're going to add video to our podcast, or we're going to do this. So it's just a way to keep track of what you're doing and make sure that that knowledge is not just buried in people's heads and tribal knowledge, making sure that it's something that can scale and grow as your company grows.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a graduate student. I'm at the University of Florida, and we had one of the postdocs leave. And so I took over some of the projects, and he left excellent notes, excellent SOPs. We made video SOPs, and I can truly attest to that. Like, you think you remember everything, but then you don't, and you have to look back to the notes, or you have to look back to the video. And it made things a lot easier than trying to figure it out, honestly, for the second time. But it's all been done before. I think it's really important, and man, it makes life a lot easier for that next generation. So how successful is your company, I guess? If people use your software, then what should they expect out of it? Maybe on one side, if they don't use it, 20% pass quality control and FDA. And then on your side, if people use it, then 80%, something like this. Do the processes go by faster, or what are exactly the tangible benefits of using Greenlight Guru?
Sure. The first benefit is it's a single source of truth. Everything that you do to manage quality within your company is contained within a workflow and documents and records within Greenlight Guru. And so I'll just to try to simply explain that. So when I go through design and development or new product development, I mentioned a moment ago, you're documenting the things that you're doing, process, the decisions you're making, the testing that you're doing, and so on. At some point in time, that product is going to go to the market. And now when that product goes to the market, you need to manage the total product lifecycle. You need to manage what's happening when you're getting that feedback. Oh, wow, we learned from this person that this thing broke, or wow, look, we heard this and this is an opportunity for improvement. But now I can connect these dots because all of that information about my products, about my processes is contained within a single platform. And the reason that's helpful is because the alternative, what is still unfortunately status quo, is largely paper-based or a paper derivative type solution. And I often refer to it as digital paper, where these are not purpose-built workflows. They're not purpose-built solutions. It's based on having file cabinets with folders, and that's where information is stored. And that's what a lot of companies, unfortunately, have replicated on like servers or SharePoint sites and that sort of thing. Is information that you need is buried, and you may not even know it's there. And so now you don't have this connected ecosystem. And as products get more complicated, or as we start working remote or partnering with other people, the pandemic is a great example. Everybody was forced to be remote. And if you're in one of these alternative approaches that's a derivative of paper, you're going to fail because you don't have a purpose-built, cloud-based, connected ecosystem. So this is one of the problems that we try to alleviate for companies. And then in turn, what that does is keeps you well organized and keeps all your information that you need right there at your fingertips in one single location. And so that streamlines audits and all these sorts of activities that medical device companies are subjected to. It just makes it much more seamless.
So have you had any feedback? Oh, we had an audit and we had it previously and it took 6 months and this time it took 2 weeks or something like this. And anything like that? Or
Yeah, we actually just had a customer share with us that they had because being audited is part of business in the medical device industry, especially if you get your quality system certified. I don't know if we'll get into that, but nonetheless, just keep it simple. You're going to have regulatory bodies or maybe customers or suppliers. All these people are going to be coming to audit you from time to time. And what they're going to be looking at is your procedures, your SOPs. They want to understand how you've interpreted those regulations into your internal procedures. And they want to see the documentation, how you're following those SOPs and so on and so forth. So this one customer story, the audit was scheduled to be 4 days, which is pretty standard. And during these 4 days, an auditor is going to be, hey, Laden, show me your procedure for this and show me your procedure for that. And I want to see that this person has been trained and so on and so forth. This audit didn't take 4 days. It took 2 days because the Greenlight system made it so much simpler and easier to find and retrieve information that was needed, and it just improved that efficiency. So that company got two bonus days removed from the audit timeline so that they could focus on other things, because audits are a huge disruption to a business. And when I'm being audited, I can't go out there and design the next product or manufacture devices. Instead, I have to answer questions to demonstrate that what we're doing is good and on the up and up.
Yeah. And it sounds like even being disrupted for those 2 days, like it was less disruptive than it would have been normally. Like instead of somebody poking you constantly, like, hey, where's this thing? Where's this thing? Where's this thing? They could go find it themselves and be happy with the results.
Not just the time, but an audit, usually like in the old way of doing an audit, I'd have a room set up where I would interact with the auditor, but I'd have another back room or war room, sometimes it's referred to, where I'm chatting with the person. I'd be like, hey, we need to find this. And so you got a whole team of people that are sitting, on standby to go run and pull documents, where I can pretty much eliminate that war room. I could pretty much manage that audit with minimal actual FT or internal resources that you don't need to have as much stress and strain. So I get the time back and I free up a lot of resources that otherwise would have been contained to help me with that audit.
That sounds like a huge drain. And then that time is money, especially for companies. They're paying their employees. So that could be worth a good amount of money. Speaking of money, you guys got a nice investment recently, $120 million. I'm surprised. So why so much? And what's it going to be used for?
JMI has invested in Greenlight, and it's really about, I guess, generically speaking, it's about growing our market presence, being able to help accelerate some of the things that are on our product roadmap, allow us to bring more workflows that impact more parts of a medical device company. Because we get a lot of problems or challenges for medical device companies in certain areas like design and development, like document and record management, like managing your quality events, things like CAPAs and complaints. But there are other things, pieces of feedback that we've been collecting over the past couple of years about ways to either enhance those workflows or to yet even build additional workflows that others, like in manufacturing or regulatory or other parts of a medical device business, could benefit from. And again, bringing that into that single source of truth to help connect these other workflows to this product and process data that's already contained within the Greenlight platform. So it's really about just accelerating different things on our product roadmap and getting those into the hands of additional users within the same company.
Yeah. Sounds interesting. And then actually, before we started recording, we were talking a little bit, and we were talking that a lot of your leads or a lot of your sales come from basically content. And you guys have the Greenlight Guru podcast, and which is great. I'm subscribed to it. It's very interesting. But you guys are also doing an academy, Greenlight Guru Academy. So basically, is that what this investment is going to be for? Is putting out more into the community, teaching the community, and then people see how good it is and come to you? Is that what the plan is?
I think that's part of it. I don't think there's, lots of areas where we're growing within the business. I mean, just, for example, pre-investment during the pandemic, Greenlight more than doubled in size as far as our employees during a pandemic, where a lot of companies, they were reducing their workforce or, putting people on furlough and things like that. We were taking quite the opposite approach because the demand for our product and service was significant. And I think it actually increased as a result of the pandemic. And I think it's important in this industry that there's so many changes that are happening from a regulatory perspective. One of the big things that the industry is dealing with right now, EU recently mandated their new regulations, and that essentially went into effect earlier this year, back in May. Companies are struggling to keep up with that. And so one of our principal jobs at Greenlight Guru is to be aware of and keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in these global regulatory initiatives, because any one of those changes in and of themselves can have dramatic and drastic influence or impact on a medical device company. So we want to make sure that our workflows are constantly a step or two ahead of where the regulatory bodies in the world, what they're thinking, where they're going. So that way customers of ours can benefit from that. They don't have to reinvent the wheel and learn things over and over. And I think really, generically speaking, that's what the investment opportunity is. And it's going to come in a lot of different facets. You mentioned the academy. I think that's one of our newer initiatives. But that's an area that I think has a lot of opportunity, but just continuing to do the things that have worked, our content, our webinars, our podcasts, and just continuing to advance that product roadmap and bring additional workflows. It's all sort of connected.
I mean, I guess a good way to predict the future is to create it. So you could potentially do lobbying and all this kind of stuff to really guide it to where you want to go. But no, that's really cool. So I want to hear a little bit more about the academy. I've taken it and I've gotten maybe halfway through it. I really enjoyed it. Do you want to explain it a little bit, and what does it teach and who's it?
Sure. So it's simple too. It's academy.greenlight.guru. Greenlight has about a dozen or so of our employees that we refer to as medical device gurus. Before Greenlight, they worked at medical device companies. We are medical device industry focused, and we bring people into our team who have that expertise. But I was talking with a couple of my colleagues, a couple of our gurus the other day, and sometimes I need to find something. I need to learn something. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to go and I'm going to search for it on the internet. And when I search for something, oh, wow, look, there's this great article that was written by Jon Speer about how to do ABC. And I read it and it's like, oh, okay, cool. And I might get something from it, but did I learn? And so this is where we're going with the academy. Is we're early days in this, and we've got a lot of things that we're working on within the academy. But we want to try to take a step or two closer towards the person consuming this information to having a little bit more of an experience, so that they not just reading, but give them some examples or maybe even some hands-on, so they can go through this course and pick up something, some knowledge that they're trying to gain. And we have today all sorts of variety of courses within the academy, courses that may take you just a few minutes to those that may take you a week, to complete. We have some that are free. We have quite a few that cost you a few $100s and come, a certificate at the end of the program. And so this is one of the areas that we're looking at. What is important from a product development engineer or a quality engineer or maybe a regulatory professional? So we're building these different learning paths that are based on different functions and jobs to be done within a medical device company.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really like the idea of giving back to the community and teaching, imparting that wisdom, that hard-earned wisdom from your gurus, your medtech gurus, because a lot of this stuff is experiential, and to be able to pass it on, it requires more than a Wikipedia article. It does require maybe a video or an explanation or just really talking about personal experiences. So I'm really glad that you're doing that. And so it sounds like when I saw it, it didn't look like there were any paid portions, but that was maybe a few weeks ago. So you're saying it's expanding and you're growing it out, and it might be almost like a university one day, right?
Yeah, I think the big vision for the Greenlight Guru Academy is to provide, to your point, the experience, to just help people with professional and career development. If I'm, for example, an engineer within a company, maybe I could take some courses from the Greenlight Guru Academy and get more knowledge to augment the on the job things. Or maybe I'm looking to get into a different function within the company, or maybe I'm trying to get into the medical device industry and I've worked in other industries. Well, I think there's lots of different avenues that one could take to leverage the content in the academy. Again, maybe that 10-minute course that I go through is really just a refresher. It's, oh yeah, that's a reminder. But if I really need to get in-depth hands-on, maybe something that's going to take a couple of days of time and cost a few $100s, maybe that's what I need because I'm out of practice or I've never done this and that sort of thing. So there's really all sorts of levels depending on one's experience and interest and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's, is it going to be like a university? Maybe, but right now we've been focusing on getting the content. We've been listening to those that have been going through the courses and taking back as to what they want next and what subjects they want us to cover and that sort of thing. But I do expect that we'll be building out some focused learning paths based on a functional role or a job within a specific medical device company.
Yeah, that would be really interesting for me to see as an outsider who hasn't really done this, almost like a shadowing. Hey, this is the day in the life of X person in this company, or maybe even make a composite person, not necessarily the real person. So maybe trade secrets aren't explained, but I think that would be really interesting. That would be a fun, lesson, I guess. So as we're finishing up, you had mentioned, what was that, some kind of certification or something like that?
Certification. Oh, yeah. Within some medical device folks, they have the need to obtain continuing education credits and things of that nature. The Greenlight Guru Academy, we've partnered with a company that has built some of these paid courses. And again, they're a lot more in depth. and very detailed, but I've taken them myself. And one of the courses I took was about risk management, which is a big thing for the medical device industry, especially product developers. Like, I know about risk management. What am I going to learn? After going through this course, I learned a great deal. And it was like, wow, this is great content. So we've partnered with this company to basically host their courses. And at the end of it, you get a certificate, something that is legitimate, that you can keep into your training file and to demonstrate that you've actually done this sort of thing, which we talked about auditing a little bit earlier. Sometimes that's one of those things that auditors ask, who is Jon and why is he qualified to do this activity? I can demonstrate that, look, I've gone through this course about risk management and I got the certificate that shows that I got an 89% on the final exam and that sort of thing. So that kind of information is important in those situations as well.
Yeah, so I guess it's like a transcript and permanent records of each employee. Jon, this has been really interesting. I found this very enlightening. Hopefully listeners have as well, that it's not just for medical device companies. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention?
No, I don't think so. I think you've hit all the highlights. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and hope something that I said is a nugget that some of your listeners will take and be able in some way, shape, or form.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the show and were able to learn something new, bringing together different fields in novel ways. Until next time on the Neural Implant Podcast.